This is the Art of Network Engineering podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore tools, technologies, and talented people. We aim to bring you information to expand your skill sets and toolbox and share the stories of fellow network engineers.
This episode is presented by the letter A. A stands for anything but RIP. Ah, yes, the classic dynamic routing protocol, one of the first, the pioneer, routing information protocol. Back in the day, if you had a small to medium-sized network and did not want to static route everything, then it was da-da-da-da, RIP to the rescue. But then our networks got bigger, more complex, and did we really want to rely on just hop count from what our directly connected neighbor said was good? I mean, that's like your next door neighbor saying, let's go this way to the party. It's shorter. We just got to go over a mountain, trek across a desert, then cross a river. The bridge is out, by the way. To which you say, nah, bro, let's take the interstate. We don't have to stop for any zebra crossings. You know, none of this really had much to do with the letter A at all. Nah, maybe I'll try harder next time. Anyway, welcome to the Art of Network Engineering.
That's awesome. I'm so glad they got rid of RIP from all those exams, man. It was so painful going through the learning process. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight? Andy, how are you?
What do you got against RIP? It's like the easiest thing out there.
I know, but you know how like disparaging it is for like a new learner. Like, learn this, memorize it. You're going to get tested on it. Oh, by the way, you're probably never going to see it in production.
You mean like frame relay?
Exactly, like frame relay.
Yeah. Yes, I am good. My kids started summer camp this week.
Nice.
It's the first time in 460 something days that they have been
Is
out of
that
the
all?
house for all day. So I've been super productive at work. Yay!
Nice.
Not really, but I'm trying.
And you're back from vacation.
I am. The happiness has faded.
Zen Andy is gone.
Zandy has left the building.
Zandy left the building.
I'll miss him.
He'll be back again someday.
I hope.
Tim, how you doing?
I'm well, just trying to get through the day. I got a maintenance window tonight, and then I am off for a little over a week.
Beautiful.
Very nice. You going away?
Yeah, for a little
Good.
part
Nice.
of it.
Awesome.
Very nice.
And then it's just kind of trying to recharge and try not to do anything stupid.
I love it. Very cool. Dan, where are you?
I'm out in the middle of absolutely nowhere, southern Illinois.
Oh, Southern Illinois. All right. Visiting family, hanging out.
Yep. The
Southside?
wife's grandmother.
Excellent. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in a shop, yes.
Dan may or may not be in a garage shop full of axes, chainsaws, whatever else.
Just
have you.
building birdhouses, you know.
On this episode of Howdy Packet and Tools.
I think I saw that show on PBS one time.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
great.
Dan, maybe you could build me an office chair that's comfortable enough that I don't need this back pillow.
We'll have it built right in.
I don't think I can do that. I don't have the right materials for that one. I've got wood and metal up here. That's about it.
No memory foam in that shop? No.
I could put you a lawnmower cushion on there. I can do that.
There you go. Just like a
awesome.
John Deere seat with wheels. That's
Did
all
you say
need.
John Deere?
Yes.
John
exactly.
Deere.
John Deere.
John. And there's our new T-shirt design.
Yeah.
Get your John Deere T-shirt.
That's great. John Deere.
It's just me and Andy on a tractor.
Oh, man. How are we going to tie that to networking? We put the A1 logo on the tractor? Is that how that happens?
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
I'd
That's
say so.
great.
Are we on the same seat, Dan? Is it like a motorcycle where like you're hugging me? And...
Yeah, I'm hugging you. Definitely.
Oh, the image is too much.
I don't think they put too many sidecars on tractors, so yeah, you're probably going to have to do it that way.
Yeah.
That's great.
Anyway, AJ, how you doing, brother?
You know, after I gouge my eyes out, I think I'll be better.
It's going to be okay.
Oh, with the image of Dan and I on the tractor.
Yeah, with you guys like spooning on a
True.
tractor, a John Deere. Just not
I
sure
can't
if
quit
I can
you,
handle
Dan. I can't quit you.
it. Oh my god,
Oh gosh.
I hope we have some material here.
that's great.
You got any wins, AJ?
We got lots of wins. Can you give me a go
Thank-
scream and then I'll read the wins?
Thank God. Let's
'Cause-
pivot.
Because this clearly is not one right now.
All right. Discord member Heath passed their JNCIA Junos. Congratulations, Heath.
Very nice.
Congratulations, Heath.
David Alicia,
job.
huge win for David. Absolutely huge win for David. Passed the CCNP Security Core exam, the score.
I
Congratulations,
saw that, man.
David. That is
Oh wow,
awesome.
that's nice. That's
Yeah.
a big
He's
one. Right there.
he's so humble about it too, because he's just working his tail off and he gets it done. And he just says, "Hey, this is cool. I got it done." And he's just
I'd be
on to
screaming
next
from the
thing.
top of every mountain.
Yeah, same.
When I eventually pass another
Yeah.
exam, the whole world's going to hear about it. Yeah,
It'll
he was
happen.
very humble.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen this
Sure.
year too. I put money on it. He's ignoring what I said. I like that. That's nice.
Well, you don't know that I might be pivoting careers soon and I might not need certs.
He's stay-at-home dad.
Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
So the next win. So a few weeks ago, our buddy here had a win, and I completely butchered his name, and I feel really bad about that. But I read it kind of like phonetically. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense in my head, and I was like way off. So I believe last time I called him Quiatriot because of how I thought it was. The way
Were
that
you corrected? How
yeah.
did you know it was wrong?
I was very wrong. It's
Please come
Quiet Riot, which makes a whole lot more sense when I look at it. It's like,
Oh,
yeah,
like the band.
yeah,
Okay.
Quiet. Okay, so Quiet Riot works as a contractor from Comcast, and they recently implemented an automation solution that he has been working on for a few weeks. So that's
Where does he work?
He works for Comcast as a contractor.
My condolences.
Nice, very nice.
What Andy
Yeah,
means
I'm
to
pretty
say
sure
is
that's what I heard, too.
congratulations.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Quiet Riot.
Hey AJ, don't feel bad on the names, because if y'all want good content, good blooper content, you just have me name off all these names in the Discord.
Yeah, I mean, one of you guys are more, go ahead, take the reins. Like, you can do it. I can just sit here and look pretty. That's fine.
No, I'm saying you don't want that.
Mikey OC passed the MS 900, which is the Office 365 Fundamentals exam. I didn't know that was a thing. I might have to go take a look at
Oh,
that.
very cool.
I do.
Okay.
I do a little Office 365 on the side, so maybe I'll go get myself a MS 900 done here.
Okay.
So congratulations, Mikey.
There you go.
And Lil Shep 9999 passed their first round phone interview, and they have been welcomed back for round 2 and an in-person interview for their first IT position. So big win for Lil Shep 9999. Congratulations, everybody. Andy, go scream me.
Nice.
Wait, I don't know why we're doing this so old school, like I feel like we should just have a soundboard with some sound effects, like cheeky DJ style.
Mhm.
Or is it more fun to just like do it real time?
Hey,
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. And also, if you think about it, this wasn't even a thing a year ago. So
Yeah, that's true.
take
Yeah,
that
there's
into
that.
account where this whole thing is at now.
I think
say
we
it's
were
pretty
like
decent.
getting ready to record episode 1 because we had to record episode 1 a few times.
Oh, we did. I forgot about that. Why?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Yeah.
Were we screwing it up?
So we recorded episode 1, and I think we were getting ready. Like we got most of the way through it, and then Aaron's hard drive filled up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot
yeah,
about
and
that.
then
Yeah. Because Audacity is a
then
beast.
I forget what happened on round 2. There was another technical problem we had. We couldn't finish it, couldn't do it, and then we sealed the deal on round 3.
Wow. Look at that. See? Just gotta adapt and overcome. Took
That's
us 3
right.
tries to
That's
get our
right.
first episode.
Yep. But then every other episode after that has been, one take.
I like the real goat. It's analog. You gotta reach for it, but the soundboard could be fun. We could add a lot of fun things in there and just blast sounds throughout the show, but then it'll become like a morning
Have like
zoo
a
kind of thing.
animated
So-
goat go across the screen.
So
Like the Tim emoji just pop up, float across
we're
the screen.
we're still working with
Yeah.
Opengear for our
See,
our
I
backpack
see it.
giveaway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
the backpacks have been ordered. They will be
Oh, yeah,
ready
yeah.
in less than 2 weeks, and then
You're
they
not
will
going to give
be.
away a secret, are you?
They're going to be stuffed with some goodies.
Goodies.
I ordered 12 of these off the Amazons,
Can't
and
believe you're telling
they
people.
arrived the other day. And I ripped open the bag, and I saw a bag full of goats, and I was like screaming like a little girl because I was so excited.
Bag
Nice.
full of goats. I think I saw them in concert once.
Yeah.
And so I shipped them to our contact at Opengear so that they can put them in the backpacks. So whoever gets an A1 backpack is going to get a screaming goat.
Thank you, Opengear.
Very excited. Yes, thank you, Opengear, for your continued support.
Yeah. These backpacks
Yeah,
look
they
pretty
do.
sweet. I kind of want one. I don't know if we can like order
When we
extra
get a little
or-
bit closer to giveaway time, I will post a picture on the socials to tease the crap out of that, but they look pretty sweet. Unfortunately, we're not going to see those.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we should do
And-
something fun, right? Like when we get back to like in-person conferences, if we see people wearing an A1 backpack at a venue, we should like, give them some extra fun swag like on the spot. Yeah.
I like that.
But I digress. We are here for episode 51. Tonight we are talking about SD-WAN.
Yeah, AJ.
SDWAN.
SDWAN. Everybody loves SDWAN.
SDWAN.
Everybody loves SDWAN.
What is SDWAN?
Yeah, what is SD-WAN?
Software defined wide area network. It's the new hotness in the WAN department.
So why do we need software defined
Okay.
WAN?
So what does
What's that?
WAN stand for?
Yeah, traditional WAN.
Yeah,
So
what's traditional WAN?
I don't know. I'd like to throw that over to Andy because Andy does a lot of WAN. He does a lot more WAN than I do.
WAN jam. Wide area network is how you connect to the world. So typically in a data center environment, at least the ones I'm accustomed to, you have a service, let's say an MPLS cloud, and you have an A and a B side router, both connected to the MPLS clouds, and you would run some kind of HA, either HSRP, or you would tweak some routing metrics so that you would have, one side be primary for one carrier, the other side be primary for the other, and have failover built into the configs. But it's the data center side, and then the client side, same thing. You want them to have two routers out there, they have two circuits coming in, and blah blah blah. But it's how your clients get to your services, right? That's the WAN. Without the WAN, there's nothing, right? There's no internet, there's no clients can't get
Right.
to anything.
No,
Right.
no
And you're in a
connection.
very customer facing operation, right? So you're giving your customers are bringing a WAN router to the table that's connecting to your network to access your services. And so in an enterprise environment, you would have a WAN router at all of your branches as well. Exact same concept, right? And so traditional WAN, you had a bunch of centralized services in the data center. So that's where your email was hosted, all your applications, everything came through the data center. But that landscape has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. So like no longer I wouldn't say no longer, but it's becoming more and more common that enterprises of various sizes, small, medium, large, are sending all their email to a cloud hosted service, right? Office 365, Google Apps, whatever the case may be. And it's not just email. There's a lot of services that are becoming very decentralized, and there's name anything as a service, right? So whether it's infrastructure, platform, software, there's lots of stuff that's in the cloud, which is just somebody else's data center, not yours, to put it perfectly simply. And so SD-WAN has come along to help kind of manage that migration to this decentralized era of applications. And with it, there's a whole slew of stuff that has come with it, and it's really cool how it has evolved over the last couple of years. So, you think back to the earliest SD-WAN solutions, and the one that kind of comes to mind is Meraki. It was like the first kind of that I can recall anyway, the first kind of like cloud managed network application or networking kind of system. And so, and that was like I don't know, the hallmark of SD-WAN was the fact that it was cloud managed. So if we go back to, your scenario, Andy, if you had to like add a new policy or add, a new site, you would have to modify how many different routers to get that to work.
It was a lot, and it was manual, and and even like so, even like if you had, say, you had a client with an MPLS primary connection and an internet backup, they never used the internet unless the MPLS went hard down. There was no using both connections, so you were paying for a backup connection that was hardly ever used.
Yeah,
unless
like
there's
just
a
in
failure
case.
on primary, which always kind of seemed like you have this router connected to this circuit doing nothing
Right.
99% of the time. It never really seemed all that efficient. But tell us how SD-WAN, I mean, it can, yeah.
I want to ask one question first from a time standpoint too. In an MPLS design, for a client, they want to turn up a new site. Typically, how long does it take to get an MPLS circuit to a
My
location?
experience, it can take
Is there
quite
a
some
typical
time.
time?
I've seen it take 6 months.
Yeah.
Like a 90 days
6
or
months.
I've
6
seen
months?
it take 6
Wow.
months.
Wow.
Depends on if they have to trench and
Yeah.
they might not
True.
have a
Yeah,
presence
construction
where you're
build
at or
out
whatever, but
potentially, yeah.
a couple months, a while, it can take some time, and they're very expensive.
Especially
Com-
if your
compared to broadband.
MPLS cloud is through, Verizon or AT&T, and wherever that branch site is, if the last mile doesn't cover by the same provider, then they got to negotiate and work with whoever the provider is in the area to get that link in there and get the circuit tied into your MPLS cloud. And yeah, that takes time.
So SD-WAN was sold as a cost savings, right?
Yeah,
You could
like
get
out of the
rid
gate, a lot of the players in
MPLS.
SD-WAN sold it as like a cost savings, where you would replace your MPLS with, just either like a cable connection or a DIA connection from an internet service provider. I think the real value in that is, with the SD-WAN solution, it works off overlays, which is primarily IPsec tunnels or some form of VPN, right? So while you're waiting for your MPLS connection to get turned up, you can bring in a very cost-effective internet connection and get turned up in days rather than months, right?
So where do these IPsec tunnels or these overlays, where do they terminate? I mean, typical IPsec tunnel, you'd connect back to a data center or whatever, and I know you may still have things in a data center, but maybe you have things or a lot of things out in the cloud. So where do they terminate?
Right. So with SD-WAN, you can kind of define like which router or device in the topology is going to be your hub, and you can set up various types of topologies. You could have like a full mesh or hub and spoke. You could do like a regional hub and spoke, and you can tell it like, here's where you go to terminate your connections.
So they're terminating in a head end somewhere, right? Like on the SD-WAN device.
Right.
It's like a hub.
Like on another peer device.
So I guess conceivably, you could just get 2 cable internet connections out of the client site, 2 different carriers, SD-WAN them up, and then just have it, take whichever path is better, right? Like
Sure.
less latency, less packet.
Yep.
Like you don't necessarily have to have MPLS, I guess.
No, absolutely not. But I guess
think
it depends on your applications, right? Like if you're hosting internally some sort of like low latency application, I don't know if like doing that is the best option. But if you're using public internet and then a lot of cloud services, like a couple of different internet connections probably is a pretty good option.
Like you might have voice requirements, right? Like maybe you're a
Sure.
call center or something. You're going to have MPLS for like what is the class of service markings or whatever, right?
Right.
Probably going to have better guarantees over MPLS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say I think one of the biggest benefits I see is that flexibility, right? If you are in an organization where you're turning up sites often, things are moving around often, and you don't have the time to wait for a dedicated private circuit, or again, you're a mobile organization and you're not in a physical location long enough where you want to agree to a longer term for a private circuit like that. I really see that flexibility where you can turn up a site quickly on potentially whatever connectivity is already there, broadband, direct internet access, and you're shipping a device. So I guess the
Absolutely.
next question is yes, it's flexible, but what does configuration and turn up look like from that device that I'm shipping to a site?
That's a fantastic question. So it depends on the solution. There's a couple of different ways that you can do device configuration. So if the site that you're working at has like just a regular old internet connection with DHCP, then there's basically no configuration you have to do to the device before it ships. Just plug it into the internet; it'll phone home. There's usually some sort of centralized management piece to these various SD-WAN solutions, right? So once it calls home, it'll get dropped into your tenant, and then you can assign the device to a site. You can configure it then and there. Some of them can let you stage the configuration of the device before it's even drop shipped from the factory. So as soon as it gets connected into the network or the internet, it'll phone home, get its configuration, download it, and then just be configured and ready to go. Now, if you are working with an MPLS connection, then there's probably some bootstrapping that you have to do, and depending on the solution, there's various ways that you can do that, right? Like you can console into the router and do some basic configuration and setup. There's one solution, VeloCloud. So I've done some training on a lot of these SD-WAN solutions. I've done VeloCloud, SD-WAN, I've done Cisco, I've done Meraki, and I've done a couple of others. But the VeloCloud solution is pretty neat because what you can do is send either a trusted partner or somebody local. It doesn't even have to be an IT professional, right? They don't even need to really know anything about IT. Most of the time, these little gateways have the capability to broadcast a wireless network, either for use indefinitely by end users or just for initial setup kind of thing. And you can, from a mobile device, join the wireless network and click a link in like a setup email. And that link contains all of the configuration information, like static IPs for an interface, for WAN interface, and everything else that it needs to get set up. And then that will configure the device and away
So you
go.
mentioned some centralized management a little bit ago that your remote device will check into. Is that something that I host in a data center that I own? Is that out in the cloud? Where does that live?
Yes. It depends on the solution, but most of these solutions will offer either a solution where you're taking a VM, you can stand it up in your environment in a private cloud, you can launch something in Azure, Google Public Cloud, AWS, whatever the case may be, or sometimes they'll even host it themselves for you.
Yeah, like
and then
Meraki
there's
dashboard.
certainly exactly, and there's certainly offerings that can come as like a managed services offering from like an ISP or like an MSP, right? So you might be buying into a solution where they're giving you a branded device, but behind it is just an OEM type solution that they're managing on your
So
behalf.
what do you see more often? Do you see clients operating SD-WANs on their own, or do you see more managed solutions?
Lately, I've seen a lot more managed solutions, and it seems like the customers that I work with are going with managed solutions provided by their service provider.
Mm.
Yeah. So they're getting, a VeloCloud solution, but it's just been rebranded by the ISP, and they're putting those devices in the customer's premise.
And do you think that's because the customers are already comfortable with getting a WAN solution from an ISP that they know they need to transform, but they don't want to lose that comfort level, or what's the reasoning?
I think it's cost, right? Because you already have to go to the ISP to get the service. And if they're going to bundle the service with the management, then why not?
Okay.
It's one less thing that the network engineering team probably has to worry about or concern themselves with. They just have to worry about, the kind of the overlay network.
So does that mean you can never leave that telco provider?
Maybe.
Because you've just tied that service into their
yeah.
right?
You become even more tied into them than you were before.
So the advantage of building it out yourself is you have a little bit more autonomy to
definitely. I would say that
if you want.
That a lot of our customers are curious about SD-WAN, at least the ones that I've worked with too. So like if they're not already bought into a solution, that's like an MSP provided solution. They're asking us to come in and do like an SD-WAN kind of survey or audit. Like they're curious about SD-WAN. There's a lot of options out there. The market is very active, I'll say, because there's companies buying up other companies and solutions. There's solutions that are coming out with new add-ons all the time, and they're a struggle to keep up with the change and figure out like which is the best solution for them. And so we're kind of doing it out of their environment and like, what are you using for applications? What do you have for connections now? How many branch sites do you have? What are like the top business cases for what you would consider for an SD-WAN solution? And then we'll tell them like, based on what we see here, you probably don't need to go to SD-WAN. But I don't think we've said that to anybody yet, right? Because everybody's using cloud-based applications. So what we will do is we'll say, here's kind of all the players in the SD-WAN market, and based on your business needs, here's the ones we feel can satisfy your requirements the most.
Are customers coming to you asking about SD-WAN? Or is it something that you're trying to upsell?
Nope. They're coming to us and asking about it.
So let me ask this, AJ. If let's say like in our case, we have multiple ISPs. Like different site might have a completely different ISP, like Comcast or some like local mom and pop shop.
Mm-hmm.
So in our case, we use Meraki. That's what we use for all of our sites. But you were talking about providers, providing that SD-WAN solution. So let's say if I have a site that has Spectrum, but then I have another site that has Comcast, but I went with CenturyLink's SD-WAN solution, would CenturyLink support that, even though those providers aren't CenturyLink?
That's a good question. I'm not familiar enough with like the managed services end of that. If as an ISP, I would have to imagine as an ISP, they would allow you to connect those other connections to their device, right? Because that's part of why you would have an SD-WAN device. And not all SD-WAN solutions are created equally. Like the way that one handles multiple internet connections can vary how another. I don't want to start advertising for the various OEMs here, but if you dig into it, it's really cool how one of them handles it over another one. So definitely do your research there. There's some that offer like WAN acceleration, where it's like a local branch cache of the things that get accessed most frequently over the network. Not all of them offer that. And so or if they do offer it, maybe it's not built in, you have to have a license or whatever the case may be. But it's definitely something to take into consideration when you're shopping around for these different services.
So I want to talk about security for a minute. So, we've got traditional networks, you've got remote sites that connect back to a single or dual data centers, and you got these big old honking firewalls at the edge that get all your content filtering. And then now all of a sudden you decide, hey, we're going to take a lot more things to the cloud. We want direct access to the cloud. We're going to use our SD-WAN devices to take us straight to the internet. How do you secure that?
Great question. So because of the nature of all these cloud services, content filtering services and stuff going to the cloud, or these extra security services, you can do something what's called service chaining. And part of your policies, you can send that traffic out to that solution for the extra scrubbing before it goes out to the internet. So a lot of these providers will support building tunnels from your branch locations to their services, or maybe you're doing like a hub and spoke. You're sending your branch connections to a centralized data center, and then that makes the connection to your security provider. So there's a bunch of different ways to spend it. Sometimes you can host something in their cloud, like a virtual version of the SD-WAN router in their cloud to be able to make that connection. But there's a few different ways to do the service chaining that allows for that traffic to get scrubbed.
And some of the SD-WAN appliances also service firewalls too, right? That can actually be your edge.
Absolutely.
And you can do your filtering there.
Yeah. There is certainly a level of filtering that you can do. It's more like a classic firewall than it is with like not something that you would see in like a Palo Alto or like a firepower firewall.
Interestingly enough, I can't tell you the vendor, but I talked to my resident SD-WAN expert today, and in this particular solution, the SD-WAN appliances come with regular old school
Yeah.
firewalls, right? Like not
Yeah.
stateful, but you can install next generation firewall software within this appliance. So like if you want to put like a Fortinet or a Palo
Sure.
so it actually acts as
Mhm.
like a hypervisor.
Yep.
And you can start installing third-party firewall software into the SD-WAN appliance,
Yeah.
which kind of blew me away. I was like, whoa, because that was my first question too, Tim, as I'm talking to him. Like, well, where's the security? Like, this thing's at the edge, and like, where does the firewall fit in? He's like, no, this thing is the firewall. I'm like, oh, wait, okay. And then when he showed me that you can build third-party firewalls in the hypervisor, it's like, wow, they really thought of this. Like, they
Yeah.
thought
Yeah, I think
this
there's
through.
definitely
Yeah, so some of these can
pros and
come.
cons to both delivery methods. I mean, the hosted offerings where you're actually sending your traffic out there, you've got the what I'll call ease, where you're not having to host that locally.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, if you're maybe worried about latency and that kind of thing, then maybe you want to be able to have that inspection happen locally and then just egress to wherever it needs to go directly on the internet.
What seems really nice to me, like as a specific use case. So again, this guy I was talking to, I said, well, he's walking me through the solution. I wanted to prepare for this, right, and come to the table with something. So he's walking me through the solution, and I said, well, what's been the end user's experience? Like, has this changed? Like, do they have any idea any of this is happening, or it's just And what I thought was interesting was the old design was dual home to two MPLS providers. So like out, whether it's a corporate office or whether it's a client, two routers with two MPLS circuits, two different providers. And most of these cats are just hopping on the internet, right? So they have to hairpin out to the data center, get to the internet service. They're not going from the MPLS circuit out to the internet. They have to go back to the head end to get to an internet service. So their internet speeds were usually slowish because of that hairpin. You always have to go to the head end to get somewhere. And then he said that the implemented SD-WAN, got rid of one of the MPLS circuits, replaced it with a fast broadband. So now these cats that are going out to Office 365 or the internet, or, as long as they're not hitting an application in the head end, their internet speeds went from 5 megs to 500 because they're just going direct. I mean, they're fast internet connections, right? But they're just going direct to the internet, getting out to the cloud or to the, somewhere, as opposed to constantly hairpinning. So the business gets to save all that money, cutting the MPLS cost in half. And then the end user gets this super fast experience now, out to the internet, because that SD-WAN box is making those decisions. Like, oh, Office 365, go to the internet. You got to get to this application, go to the data center. And I was happy to hear that the end users, not only is the business saving money, but it really seems to make a difference for the users. Because it's
so it's a win-win basically.
Yeah, because it's the SD-WAN appliances are application aware. They know, in all those rule sets, like, oh, okay, you're going here, go to the internet, you're going there, and just it seems really cool. I'd actually like to dig a little deeper into it. I've successfully avoided it, but because of this episode, I started talking to the guy, and I'm like, wow, this stuff is actually pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of amazing, and it's all GUI based, which is neat. There's a controller, and he brought me to this analytics thing, and you can see the whole everything out there, like what it's doing, and there's a dashboard, analytics, and is anything having a problem? If a policy got violated or an SLA for packet loss, you'll see it and what happened, and gives you a lot of visibility into the performance of the WAN, which I can tell you traditional WAN, we never had. If a circuit went hard down, the failover happened easy, but you're looking at a brown outage of some packet loss, it can get kind of
definitely.
It can get hairy.
Well, and I think one thing for us on the Meraki is everything's template based, right? And so let's say you had to, I don't know, change your NTP server or something simple like that, right? Well, we have hundreds of routers out there. Well, I had to SSH into every single one of those if I didn't use some kind of automation like Ansible or something like that. And so you had to sit there and manually configure all of them just to make one simple little change. And with the Meraki, like I said, it's template based. So you add all of these different routers into a template, and they basically get a cookie cutter config. Now you have to, obviously do addressing and stuff like that. If you want all of them to talk to each other, you have to do addressing uniquely, right? But but other than that, like all the overhead, the management, all that stuff, it's pretty much the same across the board.
Which that's what you were saying earlier, AJ, kind of how you're pushing configs out. And that's what I saw too, talking to this guy. It's all template based, pretty much. Every every edge that you're going to stand this up in, they're going to have the same, yes, you got to get to Office 365, and then that template has all the ports you got to get to. And it's, instead of like you're saying, you got to go into everything, every device, and just set it all up granularly. It's really nice having the templates, and just the controller pushes it, and bing, you're up. That's really nice.
Yeah. Well, it also speeds up deployment, right? Because so when I first started here, we did a refresh, equipment refresh, and we sat in a basement, in a room in a basement, and I had 200-ish routers, and I had to sit there and apply a config to every single one of those, and then ship those out to our our road techs, and then they would install all of them, and then we had to make sure the tunnels come up and all that stuff, and we had to get on the phone with them and all that, to walk them through any oddness or anything like that. But then when we went to Meraki, dude, we did a full refresh in like less than 3 months.
Incredible.
I mean, it was insane.
Wow.
It would just you set up your like I was talking about, you set up your template, you configure your networks, and then add those networks to that template, the devices in that network. And then when, kind of like what AJ was saying at the beginning, you plug those suckers up and they get an internet connection, and then they phone home to the dashboard, Meraki dashboard, and then they pull down their configs, and then wham bam, thank you ma'am, you're up and running in like 15 minutes. It's insane.
No, I think it's wham bam, thank you, Dan. I do.
Well,
I
wham
do
bam,
wanna
here's your wham.
step aside from the technology a bit for a minute and kind of talk about the planning behind getting into SD-WAN. So let's say you're a network engineer, you've run through everything, you think this is a good idea, you're in a traditional network today, but you need to build that use case, that solid business case for SD-WAN. Where do you start?
Money.
Well, I think one thing too is it depends. I know that's our favorite word. It depends, right? But like for us, if you have broadband connections rather than an MPLS cloud or something like that, it's super simple, right? If you have, let's say you have multiple connections, right? And kind of like what AJ was talking about before, how if one of you, you were saying something about the like if one gets degraded or anything like that, it can start moving that traffic over to the other, or make that like your main thing, right? Well, I mean, if you look at like a broadband connection, those are generally cheap, right? So I think if you want to have a good use case, what I'm circling back around to, I'm rambling, sorry, but what I'm circling back around to is if you want to make a good use case, I feel like you can get more circuits for cheaper, and just let it do the thinking on which channel the traffic needs to go over and all that kind of stuff.
So you could
I think
essentially have, a single carrier, single connection today, private connection, and what you're saying is a use case is you could say, hey, I could replace that potentially with multiple broadband or direct internet access for the same cost or less.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one way to look at it. But I also think not Andy, but Aaron wrote an article. I think it was Aaron that was talking about using SD-WAN with your traditional MPLS cloud, and instead of it replacing it, he has seen a lot of people just it being an extra connection for failover or something like that, right? Like where if exactly, like instead of having Andy, I don't know if you know numbers or not, but like if you have to have two MPLS connections at a single branch, what if you did a single MPLS connection and then a broadband connection? I would assume that would be cheaper.
A lot of money. Yeah.
So I could see a good use case
and
there.
Prior to SD-WAN, there was nothing to intelligently route traffic between an MPLS.
Yeah. What are you talking about? We had IPSLA.
Well, right, and that's and I think that's the intelligence that is baked into this SD-WAN, because you had to do all this stuff, right? You had to do like IPSLA and tracking and HSRP, like and metrics. There were all these, like, as time went on, people kept trying to figure out how to make use of different WAN circuits, but SD-WAN just kind of made it like really smart. The intelligence baked in is just insane. Like it's measuring packet loss, latency, jitter, like anything anything you want, and then you have that policy. Like if packet loss gets above 3%, go over there. And then it notifies you like, hey, there's something going on over here. Call your carrier. Like it's pretty wild.
So on the business side of it, if you're looking at SD-WAN as a potential replacement of MPLS or some private circuit like MPLS, how do you plan that? Like if you're only halfway through your service agreement or your contract with that carrier on that circuit, do you hold off or do you potentially bring in SD-WAN and leverage the MPLS until the end of the term? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I don't know what
depends.
those cancellation fees are on the MPLS circuits, right? Like you're talking, like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying, you might be locked in for like X years, right?
Right.
You can't just,
Right.
you can't just drop them. I mean, I would imagine I was involved in the planning of the SD-WAN solution that I was referring to earlier, but I would imagine it takes a while if you're a big organization, maybe. So maybe you can start planning it, like how many years are left in that contract, right? And then it seems like it takes a lot of time. Like how many solutions are out there, AJ? Like it could probably take you 6 to 12 months just to look at all the solutions and try to see what fits your needs and what's best and how you're going to build it. Is it going to be VNF? Is it going to be appliances? Like how are we going to do it? So I would think the planning phase could take quite some time while you're waiting for those leases to expire.
Yeah, that's a good point.
on MPLS.
And
But
plus,
the biggest, like
they're
you said,
probably
to the
not all
business, I
co-termed,
think,
right? Like you're not going to have a bunch of, lease lines that are all co-termed around the same time. You might have like the majority of them co-termed, depending on how long you've had them, but you're probably going to have to stagger the rollout. But you could probably incorporate your lease line to begin with, and then at some point phase it out, so that way you're not slowing down the rollout.
That's a good point.
And I wonder if that's like what Aaron was saying. Like he's seeing a lot of places just use it in line with their MPLS. So I'm wondering if that might be the reason.
And I think that goes back to, Dan, the fact that this really isn't or really shouldn't be sold as necessarily just a cost savings thing. I mean, it's also seen as an augmentation to your current WAN, make it better than it is today, not necessarily, hey, we're going to do this to save money.
I think that's the biggest benefit, right? Like the business always wants to save money, and that's how you get management to sign the the contracts to write the checks. But you're ultimately providing a better experience for your customers and your users. And like, hey guys, we got this internet circuit that's been sitting here dumb and happy for 3 years we haven't used. Like SD-WAN can allow us to leverage this. Like it's let's use the redundancy sitting there. It makes a hell of a lot of sense, even from a business perspective.
Right.
If you can help the users have a better experience.
And at that point, you're essentially you're not spending any money, right, for that second circuit because you've already spent the money on it. You're just not using it.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I don't know what building an SD-WAN solution costs. There's definitely a cost associated, whether it's...
Well, I mean, you got to replace gear and stuff like that. And so what we did was we just waited till the business was happy with how many years of service we had out of our old routers, and they started going into life and to support all that stuff, and then they was like, all right, here's our chance to get into it. So that's,
but you got to factor in an operating expense too, right? Because I'm guessing on an SD-WAN, any SD-WAN solution, you're paying for software licensing. If the controllers are being hosted in the cloud, you're paying operating expense for that. So
so based off of my experience, I'll be talking a lot about Meraki just because that's what I know, right? That's what I work in. But yes, Meraki is a monthly charge. You have a support, and then you have license on top of that, and you have got to pay that monthly payment. And if you don't, they will shut your network.
So is your gear? Is the actual routers or the gear that sits on your edge of that? Is that part of a monthly cost, or are you paying capital for that, and then you're paying your operating costs on top of that? Okay.
Yes. So you buy the device. And then you buy a license, and the license is for you can do like a 1, 3, 5 year type thing, and you got to make sure you buy that, and you have to pay that. You have to make sure your license and your device counts are at least your devices are equal to or less than your license count.
So I got something that I think is ultimately going to be thrown at AJ here because he's probably talked to the most customers. One thing that I've kind of heard about over the last year or so are these, for lack of a better term, carrier brokers. So in an SD-WAN scenario, you can use any kind of any number of carriers, any kind of connectivity that'll get you to the internet. So I've heard of companies reaching out to these carrier brokers to manage all of their different carrier connections. So they can, if there's an issue, they call this broker, and the broker opens up a case with the carrier. The broker handles all the billing, so you don't have to have potentially full-time accounting staff handling all these different circuits, all these different bills, that kind of thing. Are you seeing that being deployed, people jumping on board with those kind of services, or are people handling this stuff on their own?
Real quick, before I answer that question, I just want to add the what Dan's point was saying about the whole Meraki thing, right? Like if you don't pay the bill, they shut it off. They don't shut it off. They just stop you from making new changes to the network, and it only operates in the state that you left it. If you try to add a new device and you don't have a license for it, they won't let you configure it, so you can't use it.
That's not what the email
And if
says.
you have devices,
it says we shut all your networks down.
Well, I don't think they do it right away. I think
well, they give you a 30-day warning.
Paying the bill.
Trust me, I've seen these emails because we get out of our our license count.
Nice. Tim, to answer your question, that is a service that the company that I work for offers. And
Okay.
We have dedicated account managers. We have partnerships with a lot of major ISPs, and they will work with current providers to help you get your bill down, help you organize your bill. And in the end, you pay us one lump sum that will cover all of your services. And I mean, obviously, right, like we're not going to do this for free, but it includes like some cut for us to be doing this management for you. But I can almost guarantee you that whatever you're paying us to do that for you is worth the overhead that we're, and the burden that we're taking off of somebody in the IT or billing department, right? Like we're just sending you an invoice that covers all of your services through a given carrier or multiple carriers. So it's definitely a service.
Yeah, I gotta think the value there is pretty high, because I gotta imagine, in an accounting department, they're gonna get all of these bills, and they're gonna need to rely probably on an IT contact to help them get through it, understand the different terms, and make sure payments go out on time. So yeah, if it takes that burden off of not only the accounting department but also the IT department, sure, I think that's got to be a pretty big value.
And I think we do like QBRs and stuff like that, where we look at, what are the consumptions on these lines? If you're being billed for your usage, or if you're paying for like some sort of a minimum access, like, are you even scratching the surface on that? Can you crank this usage down? We'll go back to the ISP on a regular basis and say, hey, it's been a while, can we up the data rate, or can we lower the bill? We just do that kind of like regular check-in with the ISP to make sure that you are indeed getting the most value out of that.
So one thing I would like to bring up is we've kind of talked about what is SD-WAN and some of the use cases, I guess. But who is this for? Like, I think everybody hears about the new hotness and everything like that, and I just sometimes I struggle whenever I hear these new hot buzzwords and everything that's going on, SD-WAN, automation, this and that, and everything like that. But who is this actually for? Because let's say someone's listening right now and they have maybe 3 branch offices or something like that, one headquarters, and that might have some of their servers, and maybe they're not even in the cloud, right? Maybe they don't have any AWS or Azure or anything like that. Like, is this a solution for them, or is it not? Is it more for like an MSP or a very large company that might have hundreds of locations, or even maybe if they have 20 large locations or something like that? Like, kind of what are you seeing at where you work? Are you seeing smaller clients, smaller sized businesses? There we go. Or are you seeing medium, large? Like, what are you seeing?
I think there's something in it for everybody, right? Like I think that even if you are a small shop, then there's definitely benefits to having an SD-WAN solution because you've got that centralized management. You don't have to bounce around to all the different devices because if you are a small shop, you probably got like what, one or two people that are doing all the IT stuff. Like, why would you want to manage, even a small WAN of like 10 or 20 devices individually when you can do it all from, a dashboard or centralized
Yep.
management,
And
location.
I'll say, like, that was my one of my big drivers right there was, because we're a small network team, and I did not want to have to manage all those devices anymore. It was just it was a mess, and that's why I liked the whole everything centralized. But like, let's say you don't even have a branch. Let's just say you have one building. Is it beneficial then? I don't know exactly what all the cost is for some of these other solutions, but I know what it is for Meraki. Um, so like on some of the other solutions, is it beneficial if you have one building and you just have like 3 or 4 ISP connections? You put SD-WAN in front of that or something, but
I think you'd have to take a closer look at like, your WAN, what's going on outside your network. So something that pops to mind are teleworkers, right? Like very common nowadays, and you can get smaller SD-WAN appliances that can be like a teleworker appliance, right? Like it has built-in Wi-Fi, it's got some PoE ports in there, so it's got like the router, the switch, the VPN appliance, an AP, it's all right there. So an end user can take this home, they can plug into their internet connection, they don't have to do any configuration, it just gets out to the internet, builds the tunnels, whatever it needs to do, and then it'll broadcast a work approved access point, right? So they can take their work laptop, get on the enterprise network using the secure 802.1x authentication, and only with their approved work devices, and work wirelessly right at home rather than having to be tethered or use the untrusted home network, right? And then if they have an IP phone, still they can plug into the PoE port on the back of the device and power up their IP phone, and that'll make the connection back to the enterprise phone system. So I think there's definitely still a use case. So I wouldn't just assume if you're a single building or smaller enterprise that you might not have a use case for an SD-WAN solution.
So this
gotcha.
is a question I was going to ask earlier, and you just kind of poked at it again. So do you have to be dual homed to be able to reap the benefits of SD-WAN? Because in my mind, you need two different circuits to be able to, monitor and send traffic out different directions. In the teleworker model, it doesn't sound like it, right? They're just going to have
Right.
one internet connection.
Right.
So you don't necessarily even have
Well,
to be dual homed, it sounds like.
no.
You
So
don't
in the
have to
case of
be,
like
but I think
Meraki,
the bread and butter of the solution is when you have multiple, because then it can make smart routing decisions on, if this link is not living up to its SLA, or a certain standard quality connection, then you can send it out the other one, for your video traffic or voice traffic or whatever the case may be for a specific application. But I mean, even if you're only single homed, like you can still management apply policies. Like if a new, security breach comes out and you want to push a policy that will stop that, as close to the endpoint as possible, you can send it to your single homed edge device.
Yeah. I think that
yeah,
the
that
intelligence of it is
Yeah.
amazing to me because like traditional WAN is pretty darn dumb. Like even well,
I'm
like
glad you
because
said
like
that, Andy.
even well, no, like you run into so many different issues over the years, and you realize like, wow, there's got to be a better way, and SD-WAN seems like the better way. Like if you get a one-way fiber cut on a circuit, if you're not running BFD, you're just going to black hole traffic for hours, right?
Right.
Like it's not working. What's
mhm.
going on? Because the link is up. So even if you have HSRP and tracking, and like the link is up, but it's just the send or the receive's busted, and there's really no BFD is the solution, right? But we got burned on that years ago. I'm like, oh hell, we got to put BFD everywhere now. Like, whoops, we didn't foresee the one-way fiber break scenario. And
Right.
but like we are talking about earlier, between the IPSLA and BFD and like UDLD, and like there's all this stuff you got to throw at it to try to make the traditional WAN intelligent, where this just has all that plus the centralized management plus the control plus I was just reading something here. It's kind of neat that they I don't know if it depends on the services you're consuming and where they are, but this one article is, traditional WAN was never designed for the cloud, right? All the traffic in traditional WAN has to come back to a head end, and there's
Mm-hmm.
latency involved with that. There's more hops, you got to go through that, and it hurts application performance. So if people can, the delay from that backhaul impairs applications like how they're performing. But if you could just go right to the internet, right to the cloud, right out of this SD-WAN appliance, instead of having everything go through the head end, which is what traditional WAN always did. You had to go back to the hub to get anywhere.
Yep.
So, the intelligence baked into just the SD-WAN, philosophy is pretty amazing to me.
Yeah. And to that end, we'll wrap up here real quick, but I think the latest hotness is SASE, right? Everyone's talking about SASE. So that's secure access service edge. And that's it's like secure internet breakout. You can define specific sets of policies for trusted applications in the cloud to break out right at the edge device and send that traffic directly to trusted partners, Office 365, Salesforce, Box, stuff like that. And so, why backhaul all that traffic through an enterprise network when you can just let it leave the local edge gateway? So there's definitely a lot of meat left on this bone. I try to stay away from vendor specifics, for obvious reasons. But there's a lot of good stuff
Sorry.
here. I tried.
There was only one I know. So.
But I think we're going to see SD-WAN part 1, part 2, part 3, because this is a rapidly evolving, continuously evolving solution that just seems to get better with age. So I'm excited that
it might be interesting.
I'm excited we dug into it, and I can't wait to keep talking about it.
Yeah, it might be interesting to bring in different SMEs of different, solutions.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Like
Yeah,
just to
that's a
see
great
the
idea.
different offerings, and how they differ. Right. Because that's got to be overwhelming when you first look at it. There's a lot of solutions and a lot of competitors in the market and a lot of ways to do it. And how do you make a good decision there? Seems
Right.
to be kind of difficult.
Excellent.
Let's talk.
Any
to the
last minute
experts.
thoughts before we depart, guys?
Don't try to record in a metal shop out in the middle of nowhere.
Or leave the door open where bullfrogs can
Just a heads up.
Bullfrogs. Are you
Make their
freaking kidding
presence
me?
known.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun
Yeah,
editing this one.
just if you're trying to start a podcast, that's not
Not
a good
ideal.
location. No.
All right. Thanks for joining us this week, and have a great evening. We'll see you next week. We got a special guest, so make sure you come back for episode 52. See ya. Hey everyone, this is AJ. If you like what you heard today, then make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcatcher. Smash that bell icon to get notified of all of our future episodes. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at ArtOfNetEng. That's Art of NETENG. You can also find us on the web at artofnetworkengineering.com, where we post all of our show notes. You can read blog articles from the co-hosts and guests, and also a lot more news and info from the networking world. Thanks for listening.